When it comes to Bigfoot discussion online, one thing I see quite often is people saying that there's a conspiracy related to covering up Bigfoot bodies, Bigfoot photographs, Bigfoot videos, basically evidence of Bigfoot. I disagree with this, so I'm going to go into why there isn't a conspiracy to cover up Bigfoot. This isn't about whether or not Bigfoot exists, rather it's about whether or not a conspiracy exists to cover them up. There are three main groups that people usually claim are behind the cover-up: the government, Christians, and Big Lumber. The people who think the government covers up Bigfoot usually claim that the public wouldn't be ready to know about a potentially super intelligent and possibly dangerous ape, so they cover it up for the public's sake. I doubt this is happening. For starters, much bigger government secrets than a potentially super smart ape have been leaked. The truth behind the Gulf of Tonkin incident, UFOs, WikiLeaks, the NSA scandal, the Pentagon Papers, Watergate, and various high-level spies like Robert Hansen or Harold Nicholson are all arguably at the level of Bigfoot in terms of importance, or more important. I'm not saying that the government doesn't have anything hidden still, but they're definitely not perfect in terms of keeping things secret. Which leads to point number 2. A cover-up required to hide Bigfoot would be impossible to maintain for a few years, much less 5 decades. Mathematical analysis of conspiracies has shown that they typically can't grow beyond a few hundred people without getting exposed eventually. The more people who know about the conspiracy, and the longer they know, the more likely it is that the conspiracy gets exposed. Think about how many people would need to be involved in a Bigfoot conspiracy. Park rangers, national forest employees, and law enforcement would need to know about Bigfoot, since they would have to prevent people from finding Sasquatches in the wild, or stop them from bringing Sasquatch bodies or other evidence out of the woods if one was found. There would also have to be dedicated internet teams scouring online to shut down any real Bigfoot evidence from being shared, and government officials to organize and fund this campaign, and many more potential positions. There's no way a conspiracy of this scope, one that would need tens of thousands of people, could realistically exist without being exposed. The supposed motive for the cover-up is pretty flimsy as well. It's not like the government ever clamped down on investigations into the intelligence of other animals like dolphins or apes. Also, I don't think Bigfoot would be that much more dangerous than other animals in the woods, like bears and mountain lions, so I doubt it would create that much of a panic. Plus, a lot of Bigfoot sightings say that they avoid people and are generally non-violent. Some people also claim that there is a Christian conspiracy to cover up the existence of Bigfoot in the United States. Why? Because Bigfoot is apparently the missing link in evolution which would disprove creationism. If you don't know, creationism is the belief that evolution is largely not real and that humanity was created and didn't evolve. This is ridiculous for 2 reasons. 1. Bigfoot, the giant 7-foot-tall hairy ape, doesn't remotely resemble anything in the theorized chain of human evolution. 2. Most Christian denominations believe in evolution. The Catholic Church has supported evolution since at least the 1950s. The Church of the Latter-day Saints, or Mormons, have some number of creationists, but the official church stance isn't against evolution. The largest group of Christians in the United States, Protestants, are split into several denominations like Methodists, Lutherans, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, Universalists, Baptists, and Congregationalists, all of which largely or completely support evolution. So any religious organization in the United States either doesn't have the resources to cover up Bigfoot, as most creationist groups are smaller than the churches I listed, or wouldn't cover up a missing link because they wouldn't care. Plus, even among the groups that are creationist, some think that the discovery of Bigfoot wouldn't disprove creationism, since it could just be another undiscovered species of ape. The last group that's often listed as being responsible for the Bigfoot cover-up is large logging companies, and in the past, trapping companies. Their supposed motivation for this is that the discovery of Bigfoot would lead to them losing out on logging land, since if people knew about Bigfoot, they would demand that these lands be protected. To debunk this, you have to take a look at the scale of logging in the United States. For starters, the entire logging industry brings in about $16 billion a year. It's ranked as the United States' 445th biggest industry. That's quite a bit, but it's not nearly enough to justify a massive campaign to cover up Bigfoot. It's also probably not enough to afford a cover-up. A lot of that $16 billion in revenue goes to worker wages, equipment purchases, insurance, licenses, and other expenses. Also, that revenue isn't just going into one big company, it's spread out among different companies and small groups. It just wouldn't make sense financially for there to be a logging cover-up of Bigfoot. Additionally, this conspiracy also shows a lack of knowledge of the state of US forests. 297,000 square miles, or 770,000 square kilometers of the United States, or 8.5% of its total landmass, are already protected forests, which would give Bigfoot plenty of room to hide. The USDA, or US Department of Agriculture, as well as multiple other sources, also state that the number of forests in the US has remained fairly steady recently thanks to new sustainable forestry practices like farming trees. So it's not like big logging needs to justify a reason to cut down new forests. Also, if you take a look at a map of the national forests of the United States, you can see that a lot of protected areas are in the Pacific Northwest. A huge number of Bigfoot sightings take place in this region, so there's plenty of area for Bigfoot habitat there. Why would lumber companies need to cover up Bigfoot if there's already plenty of areas for Bigfoot to live that wouldn't cut into their profits? In addition to this, keep in mind that there is no evidence for a government Bigfoot cover-up. The most we have are unverifiable, and sometimes very unbelievable stories. All three of these groups would be subject to my point about conspiracies in the government section, that a conspiracy of a size big enough to cover up Bigfoot couldn't exist without being exposed, and realistically, a Bigfoot conspiracy wouldn't be able to cover up Bigfoot anyway. All it would take would be one body that someone found in a remote forest or on their land, or a really good video someone recorded to break the conspiracy apart. It's not like a conspiracy can constantly monitor the hundreds of thousands of miles of forests across the US to cover up every single possible Bigfoot interaction. Before I made this video, I decided to post the text online to see what responses people would have, so I went to the intellectual hub of Reddit to see what they had to say. I had a number of interesting responses. One great point someone mentioned is that, if Bigfoot was being covered up, why would they let Bigfoot evidence like the Patterson-Gimlin footage and the Myakka skunk ape photo become so widespread? When the Patterson-Gimlin footage was taken, it would have been really easy to disappear the footage since the media and government were made aware of the existence of the film shortly after it was taken, and it was much harder to make a copy and share footage back then. The Myakka skunk ape photo was sent to a police department, so the government or Bigfoot conspiracy would have been able to make it disappear pretty easily. One person pointed out that the government probably wouldn't invest so much money into covering something up, when if a random car hit a Bigfoot, it could expose the whole conspiracy, which I agree with. One person who disagreed brought up the Manhattan Project. If you're unaware, the Manhattan Project was the secret program that the United States conducted to create nuclear weapons. I brought up that the program was only around for a few years before going public, and that only a few dozen people really knew of its full existence. The commenter countered by stating that a similar thing could be true for Bigfoot. Only a few dozen people could really know about the whole operation, while everyone else only knew bits and pieces of it. Another commenter came in to point out that the Manhattan Project did have a lot of people who partially knew about it, but without knowing the full extent of the project, their knowledge was almost useless. Someone could know that they were working on plutonium refining, but without the knowledge of the hundreds of other people working on different parts of the bomb, that knowledge couldn't be used for much. Plus, many people working on the project were taken to remote locations without access to the outside, something that isn't possible in the modern day with the internet and phones. Additionally, other governments had actually infiltrated the Manhattan Project as well, proving that it wasn't fully secret. On the other hand, almost everyone involved in a Bigfoot conspiracy would have to know that Bigfoot was real, as they'd have to see and cover up Bigfoot bodies and evidence. There wouldn't be a way for only a small group of people to know that Bigfoot existed and still cover it up. I was also asked about the potential connection between Bigfoot and UFO and other paranormal phenomenon. If Bigfoot was related to UFOs or some unknown, possibly dangerous activity, it could give a reason for the government to cover it up. While that would be a possible explanation for a conspiracy, I still think that the cover-up would be too large to really exist. Plus, the vast majority of Bigfoot sightings don't connect to UFOs at all. Another pointed out the existence of eastern mountain lion conspiracies. Essentially, the mountain lion is an animal in the United States that's currently really only said to live in the western part of the United States. However, there are a lot of sightings in the eastern part of the country, yet officially, they've been declared extinct. The commenter does point out that, at least in his local area, the reason why they're not recognized is because it would make extra work for the park rangers there, who would also have to warn people of the animal and potentially have to track it. I think the big difference here is that the eastern mountain lions have been confirmed to exist, they just aren't believed to be from the east. Confirmed mountain lions, as in bodies, have actually been found in the eastern US. They've just been found to be from the western US or Florida, where a small population lives. But since these bodies have been found and officially confirmed, and since the conspiracies are mostly local, I don't think it's on the same level as a Bigfoot conspiracy. Finally, someone commented, "All valid points. The only thing I'd like to say to contest part of what you said is that an entity who would want to cover up real Bigfoot evidence on the internet could just create an AI to search for the good and real evidence and block. Still a long shot, I know, and it would have to be a more recent development as well as a super complicated AI, but it's still a possibility. I don't believe this myself, but I figured I should point it out just in case." This is a good point. However, I would argue that an AI that advanced doesn't exist. The main reason is that there's really no evidence for this AI. If the AI existed, wouldn't we get reports of people getting their online posts deleted or blocked? At the very least, wouldn't we see big Bigfoot personalities disappear online? How would an AI be able to tell the difference between good evidence and bad evidence? Another point is the amount of illegal and unfortunate stuff that's on the internet. Child abuse, sale of illegal material, terrorism, not to mention leaked US government documents are all online. If they had an AI powerful enough to cover up Bigfoot, I don't see why they wouldn't also use it to rid the internet of these things. Big thank you to Our Dark, Chris, Equarep, Enigma, Ravendays, Noble1296, Coast Regular, Fossil Boy, Honest Cartographer 21, and Yosoy Starman. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you shared it online, or someone else you think may also enjoy it. If you want to see more, I'll leave a link to a playlist in the description with my other videos on cryptozoology, as well as my video on the Cryptozoology Iceberg, which covers hundreds of different cryptids. Liking this video and subscribing is also appreciated. If you have any comments, questions, or disagreements on parts of the video, feel free to leave them below in the comments.
Remember, God made you special, and He loves you very much. Bye!
That's all for this video, and I will see you in the next one.